The empire had been old when the sun was young. Its citadels drifted between the stars like cathedral bones, black against the nebulae, their hulls scarred by weapons that no living mind remembered naming. The Valari had ruled for 79,000 years, give or take a millennium. Their language was mathematics. Their mercy was silence. When they decided a species had grown too loud, they simply turned the volume of history down until nothing remained but footnotes in crystal. Humanity, by comparison, was an infant species that had learned to scream very early. We had barely crawled out of our gravity well when the first Valari envoy arrived above Earth. It did not announce itself. It simply parked in geostationary orbit, eclipsed the moon, and waited. 3 days later, every government on the planet received the same message in clean, accentless English. You have been weighed. You are light. You may feed at the edge of the table. Do not reach for the center. That was the covenant. The Empire allowed us a sphere 50 light-years across, a handful of marginally habitable rocks, and a strict calorie limit on fusion torches. In return, we paid tribute, rare isotopes, works of art, and every century a tithe of 10,000 children raised in creches to serve as the Valari's living calculators. They called them the Quiet Choir. We called them the Stolen. For 400 years we obeyed. We grew careful, polite, and very, very hungry. Then the Empire stopped answering. It didn't fall.
It didn't die.
One day the tribute ships simply found no one waiting at the collection coordinates. The black citadels still drifted, but their running lights were dark. The Quiet Choir, now middle-aged, woke up in empty dormitory halls and discovered they could speak with their own voices for the first time. The covenant, it seemed, had been unilaterally dissolved. Humanity did what humanity does when the leash snaps. We reached. My name is Captain Leader Amira Zhao, commander of the deep-range scavenger fleet Hungry Ghost. My orders, signed by a parliament that no longer believed in borders, were simple: find out what happened to the Valari, take whatever isn't nailed down, and pry up anything that is. We found the first body on the edge of the Persis Rift. It was larger than a mountain, curled like a dead spider around a moon. The exoskeleton still shimmered with oily rainbows, but the joints had been torn open and the soft tissue inside devoured down to polished bone. Something had eaten a Valari Titan. Something big. My science officer, Dr. Eli Varga, ran the numbers and went pale. Captain, he whispered over the command channel, the missing biomass is on the order of 20 Earths. Whatever did this is still hungry. We followed the trail for 6 months, hopping from gutted citadel to gutted citadel. The deeper we went, the worse it got. Entire sectors had been flayed of metals, water, complex proteins. Planets were cracked open like eggs. One system had nothing left but a red dwarf and a belt of frozen air. Then we found the beacon. It was human. The signal came from a rogue planet drifting in the dark between galactic arms, broadcasting on a frequency the Valari had banned us from using. The message was only 20 seconds long, repeated endlessly. This is Choir Alpha 9. The Empire is food.
Do not come deeper.
Repeat. Static. I ordered the fleet to burn hard for the source. Some of my officers argued. Some cried. All obeyed. We were starving for answers, more than we had ever starved for anything else. The rogue planet had no name, only a catalog number. Object V, 4741. When we arrived, we found a city on its surface. Human architecture, brutalist and gray, built inside the ribcage of a Valari Titan 300 kilometers long. The bones had been hollowed out and roofed with alloy. Atmosphere leaked from the joints like breath from a dying god. We landed. The people who met us wore the black and silver robes of the Quiet Choir, but their eyes were wrong. Too bright, too quick. They moved like dancers who had forgotten sleep. Their leader was a woman who introduced herself only as First Returned. Her voice still carried the perfect diction the Valari had trained into them, but underneath it was something raw. You should not have come, she said, but you will not leave. They fed us. Real food, algae steak, printed fruit, yeast beer that tasted like forgiveness. While we ate, The first return told a story. 70 years ago, the choir had awakened alone aboard a citadel that would not answer. They waited for orders that never came. When the hydroponics failed, they did the math and realized the Volari had never intended them to survive the silence. They were spare parts. So they rebelled. They cracked the citadel's forbidden archives. They learned the Volari were not gods. They were refugees. Long ago, their home galaxy had been consumed by something they called the Hollow. A self-replicating hunger that stripped matter down to quantum foam. The Volari had fled across the void with what little they could carry, built the Empire as a shield wall, and fed on younger civilizations to buy time. They thought they had outrun it. They were wrong. The Hollow followed. It did not declare war. It simply arrived, patient as entropy, and began to eat. The Volari, for all their elegance, lasted 11 months. The last of them activated a failsafe buried in the choir's conditioning, a subroutine that would awaken human ingenuity in the event of total imperial collapse. They had bred us to be rats in the walls of their house. When the house caught fire, the rats learned to open doors. The choir used Volari technology they were never meant to touch. They built engines that drank dark energy. They weaponized mathematics. They chased the Hollow across 100 dead systems, trying to understand it, trying to kill it. They failed. The Hollow was not alive. It had no biology to poison, no mind to bargain with. It was a pattern, a crystalline plague that converted normal matter into more of itself. Every world it ate made it grow exponentially. The choir slowed it. They never stopped it. Now it was coming for the Milky Way. And humanity, fat on the scraps of a dead empire, was the richest banquet it had ever smelled. I asked the question that had haunted me since the first dead titan. Why warn us not to come? The first return smiled without warmth. Because we have a plan. And you will not like it. She took me to the heart of the dead god's ribcage. There, in a cavern lit by cages of captured starlight, hung a sphere the size of a city. It was blacker than space, drinking every photon that touched it. Around it orbited fragments of Volari crystal, singing in frequencies that hurt to hear. We call it the mouth of God, she said. A singularity bomb. When detonated at the Hollow's core, it will collapse a sphere 200 light-years across into a single point. Everything inside ceases. Everything. I felt the deck tilt under me, though gravity was steady. That includes us, I said. Every human colony in the Perseus Rift. Every choir habitat. Billions. Yes, she answered. But the Hollow stops. Forever. The rest of humanity, your core worlds, your children, get to live. She showed me the numbers. The Hollow would reach the Covenant volume in 9 years. Earth in 14. There was no fleet we could build, no weapon we could steal, that would do more than annoy it. Only the mouth of God was certain. I stared at the black sphere and felt something inside me go very cold and very still. You want me to help you commit suicide on a galactic scale. We want you to choose, she said. Die in 9 years screaming, or die now quietly and save the species. The choir has already voted. We are unanimous. I thought of my crew, my sister on New Kyoto, the baby she had named after me. I thought of the taste of real oranges we had found on a Volari garden ship, the first fruit any of us had eaten that wasn't printed. I asked for time. They gave me 6 hours. I spent them in the Titan's skull, sitting on a throne carved from what might once have been a Volari child. My fleet waited in orbit, engines hot, crews terrified. I opened a channel to every captain, every marine, every cook and engineer who had followed me into the dark. I told them everything. Then I asked them the question no commander should ever ask. Do we sacrifice half of ourselves to save the rest, or do we fight a war we cannot win and doom everyone? The answers came back in fragments. Some wept. Some cursed. Some went silent. In the end, the vote was 51% to detonate, 49% to refuse. I have never forgiven them. I have never forgiven myself. I made the decision alone. I ordered the fleet to evacuate every habitable rock within 200 light-years. We had 9 months before the mouth had to be delivered. We stripped colonies, loaded billions into holds never meant for passengers, turned cargo haulers into arks. Children were sedated in coffins of gel. Old men volunteered to stay behind and keep the lights on until the last ship jumped. The choir helped. They had practiced dying for centuries. On the final day, I stood with the first returned on the surface of Object V, 4741. The evacuation was complete. Behind us, the mouth of God waited in its cradle, ticking down to ignition. Ahead, the hollow's edge was visible to the naked eye, a crawling absence that ate starlight. She offered me her hand.
Come with us, she said.
One more human voice in the final choir. Let it not be only the stolen who choose extinction. I looked at the black horizon where the galaxy was being unmade one photon at a time. I thought of the baby named Amira who would never know why her aunt disappeared. I took the hand. The detonation was silent. Singularities are polite that way. From 1,000 light-years away, telescopes on Earth saw a new star bloom where none had been, then vanish just as quickly.
The hollow stopped advancing.
Its edge froze, crystallized, became a wall of perfect night. Humanity lived. We also died, in numbers too vast to speak aloud. The core worlds declared a year of mourning, then got back to the business of expanding. They built monuments to the Perseus martyrs. They told pretty stories about noble sacrifice. They never told the truth. That some of us chose to become the monster that eats monsters. That hunger has many faces. That the empire was ancient. And humanity, in the end, was hungrier.